welcome. So in this video, we will discuss about Java Swing components, and in this tutorial, we will learn how to create basic graphical user interface or GUI applications in Java using Swing. So Swing is a very powerful toolkit for building user interface. So to start with, we need to create a new folder just to organize our codes or files. So in my case, I created a new folder called JavaXer, and in this folder, we will add our application. So in this tutorial, I will be using VS Code without any plugin. So we will be doing it all manually. And just to check, we will be using the Java SDK, which the versions are build 17 or Open JDK. So in this tutorial, you might want to check your own version. You might you might encounter some conflicts later on. So just to make sure, uh, just to make sure that everything's working, I suggest that you'll be using the same version as mine. Um, so with that, we've already created our folder. So in the area here, you'll need to right click and look for the open with code. So this is already included when I installed VS Code. So if you're not seeing this, so you might want to check the installation guide for VS Code on why it's not showing here in the menu, right? Okay, so let's click on open with code, and it will automatically open code, and then it will be easier for us to add some files here. So to create GUI components, so we will need to use the Swing components, which is first I need to create a new class. Let's say test app.java. Yeah. So for me to be able to use components again, I need to import the JavaX, and in that you'll also need to use the Swing components. And one component which is very essential uh, is the JFrame. So JFrame is basically the window that you usually see in common applications. Like right here in VS Code, you will see something like a close button, maximize, minimize, the title, the menu. So this is actually the same as JFrame. Okay, so with that, we need to also create a class which should be the same as your file name. So test app, there. And with that, we need to create an object or an instance of the JFrame. So first we need to add it on the main method. So need to add this. So I assume that you already know what the main method is. So if not, you might want to check my previous video. So in here, we need to first create an instance. So as always, we need to have the class, so JFrame, and the name of the frame, let's say frame here. And on this one is what we call the constructor, and the constructor for the JFrame requires a string, which will be the title bar, which will appear in the title bar when the object executes it. So let's say test app, and so right now what we're seeing is with this, right? So with this, we already created our own window or frame. So what we need is the JFrame has a method called set size. So set size, as a name says, it will um, um, set the dimension of your frame. You'll be the one to specify the size of your frame. So it will require two parameters. So you need to send two arguments, integer value. So let's say 500 and 400. So this means that 500 represents by width and the 400 represents as width. Alright, so let's say we want to I'm sorry, so for us to be able to show our frame, we need to call the set visible. So with that, the frame, and then it has the method set visible, and set visible needs a parameter of boolean value, so we need to set it to true. Yeah. So we created a very simple frame, so let's try to test it and see how it will look. So again, if you don't know how to compile or run your job application manually, you need to check my previous video. So in this case, we need to test it first. So test app Java, and as you can see, there's nothing, or it doesn't have, so nothing happened. So it means that there is no error. So to run this application, so we need to call the Java command. And right now, we see our own frame where the title is the test app, and right now the size is 500 by 400. Okay, if we're going to usually, so maximize will work, minimize, but if we're going to click on the X button or close button, so far it does. So it does close, however, as you can see here, this tells us the application is still running. So it could be by default, it just hide our frame, but it doesn't stop our application. So let's try to end our program by pressing Ctrl C in Windows. There it goes. If you see a path here, that means your app or your Java program has already stopped or terminated. So what if we want to make our program end if we close or press the or click on the close button? So we need to call the set default close operation. And there are three values for our set default close operation. One is the JFrame that hide on close, then JFrame that dispose on close, and then JFrame that exit on close. So take note that these are case sensitive, so you have to make sure that these values are uppercase after the dot. So what happened there earlier, when we click our close button, it does close our frame. However, the application or program is still running. So if we do this one, so close on, exit on close, and try to compile. So as you can see here, I am just using the previous commands, which by pressing the up or down arrow button or arrow key. Right, so let's try to compile it again, and so far no error. And if we're going to run, and let's press and close, and as you can see, it terminated the program. So if you're seeing an address here or a path folder, then it tells us that the program has ended. So why do we need these three values? So depending on your situation, so if you really want to end your program, then you might want to use this. However, if you still want to retain your program, then you might want to use these two. So for example, let's create another a frame. So let's say JFrame frame 2 equals to new JFrame, and let's say frame 2. So let's set the size as well. Frame 2, let's set the size, say 200 by 200. And we also have to set visible. So frame 2 dot set visible true. And we have to, for the frame 2, we need to set the set default, the close operation. Okay, so in this case, we might need, so let's try hide on close. So JFrame hide on close. Okay, so we'll see the difference. So compile, run, and right now these are the frames. And take note that this one closes on exit, uses the exit on close, while this one is hide on close. So let's try to click on this one, then let's see what will happen. So if we're going to close it, then it actually terminated our program. So the frame 2, the other one, has been closed as well. That is because the program has terminated. So let's try it again. This time we are going to click on this one. So hide and close, it will basically just set the visibility to false. So it's still there, but it's not yet visible. So it's not visible. So if we're going to close this, so it's still there, the frame is still there, but the program is still running there. Okay, but let's try to use, instead of exiting close, let's try dispose on close. So take note, the first frame has the dispose on close. So compile, then run. Okay, so let's see what will happen. So if I'm going to close this, so the program is still running. So we disposed the first frame, so that means it was disposed in the memory, so it's no longer existing. And if we're going to close this one, so take note, this is hide on close. So let's try to close this. And as you can see, the application or the program is still running. Alright, so I hope that it makes sense. So we need to make sure that at least one frame is using exit and close to properly um, terminate our program. Okay. So next, how about um, let's try to set the color of the frame, right? Let's say frame 2 that set background. So set background means that is we're going to set the color um, on the background. Oh no, sorry. We need to I forgot get content pane and then set the background. So for us to set the background, we need to use an object called color, and then this color has some values such as red or any color name, but we need to first import this object. So with that, we need to import so java.awt.color. So color belongs to awt. So let's compile and run it. And as you can see, the second frame or the frame 2 has the background color. Okay, so just so something that you need to remember is you will have to make sure that the set visible will be called after all of these configuration or settings has been made, because if not, then whatever setting has been made after before it will only be uh, implemented. Like for example, if we're going to move this to before the set background. Okay, so then we need to we need to make sure that the application or program has ended. So we need to use the exit on close. Okay. So again, you have to be careful on where you call the set visible, because it will only implement everything before it, like here. So take note that we set the background color after the set visible. So if you're going to check that, compile, run, and as you can see, it's still here. Okay. So it could be, right? It could be that the content pane is an exception, but later we will see adding components after the set visible will most likely not show you the correct implementation that you want. Okay, so maybe we'll go on that after or later. All right, so what are other operations for the frame? Let's say frame that set resizable to true. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so what it does is you are allowed to, the frame will be allowed to be resized. So as what it see here, it's already resizing, but let's try to set it to false. Compile, run, and as you can see, the maximize button is disabled. So if you try to resize it, so the, as you can see here, the cursor, the mouse cursor doesn't change, while on the frame 2 it does. As you can see here, the mouse cursor changes depending on the point or the location of the frame. Okay, so let's try to add, or yeah, let's try to add some components. So one of the common components in Java or in the Swing components is the button. So let's try to import that. So import, and we're going to add it. Okay, so let's create our button. Let's say JButton, then JButton, say click me. There. So we already created our button, so next is we need to add it. Okay, so let's try to add it in frame 2, then button. And as you can see here, we had a very big button here in the frame 2. So we could adjust this later, or maybe after this we could change, we could use a layout so that it will look like it will much look like appealing to your users. Okay, so with that, let's set the layout. So frame 2 that set layout, then new flow layout. Okay, let's compile that. Okay, so it seems we have an error, so it cannot find the symbol flow layout. That is because we need to import it, and it is found under the AWT. So import java.awt.flow layout. Compile. Need to run it, and as you can see, it did not actually take all of the space in our frame. So as what we saw earlier, the button expanded to the exact size of the frame. However, when we use the layout, which is the flow layout, it basically just resize to the to the I think this is the modest size that it has resized. So flow layout, basically what you add there will always flow, so it will just be adjusted, no, same as when when in the water flows. So whatever's you put it in, it will just flow to the end. So if we're going to add another one, let's say button 2, say click me again, and we add it button 2, compile it and run. And as you can see there, the buttons just flow at the end. So you don't need to worry about the size. So it will just resize to a modest size. So depending on the size of the text, then maybe that will be the size of the button as well. And as you can see, the flow layout uh, will uh, will adjust the component. So it will just the screen or the location of the components will just adjust depending on the size of your frame. So take note that not all users will be using the same device or the screen monitor. So you have to use layouts to make your buttons responsive or adjustable. Okay. What else? Maybe you need to add labels. So labels are just text appearing on your frame. It is under the swing components as well. So Java X, that's swing, J label, and we need to create a reference for the button or an instance. So J label label equals new J label. Say hello, or let's say welcome, and you need to add it on frame 2. So frame 2 that add label. So again, the buttons or the components will flow to the left. Compile it, and as you can see, the label flow at the end because you added it last. So if we're going to transfer it, or if we're going to add it first, then it will show up first as well. There you go. So what you added last will show up at the end. Hold on. Okay, excuse me. So I'll be back just a bit. So aside from creating an object for the frame, we might as well create a class where it inherits the JFrame. So it will be different from what we are doing right now. So let's try to create a new frame. Let's say user frame. So user JFrame .java, and we'll create a class user JFrame, and this time we need to extend from the JFrame. So extend JFrame. Of course, we need to import our JFrame. So Java X swing that JFrame. Okay. So it's quite different on the first one that we did. So on this one, we just directly created an object for the JFrame, but this time we inherited using a class. So the way the approach here is we need to call first the constructor. So user JFrame, and we need to call the super. So super means we need to call the constructor. So constructor of the parent class. So in this case, we call the constructor of the JFrame, and we need to set the title so that we can pass it on the constructor. So let's say string title, and of course we need to pass it in the title. Take note that the constructor for the JFrame will require a string for it to be able to be created as same what will happen here. So the JFrame has the constructor, and it will require us to pass a string. Okay, so we need to set the size of our frame. So of course, as you can see here, we called it from the object, but in our case, in this case, no, we need to just call it set size. So automatically this method will reference to the parents. So set size, let's say 400 by 400, and default the close operation, set default close operation, and we need to use JFrame dot exit and close. And of course we need to set the visibility to okay. So we need to make a reference or set the reference for this frame or user frame. So with that, maybe we just add it at the end. So user frame, let's say user equals to new user JFrame, and the title, of course, let's say user frame or JFrame, and that's it. As you can see here, okay, so let's try to run it first. Okay, so compile, then run, and we have 3 existing frame. Alright, so the advantage of using a class where it inherits from a JFrame is we don't need to set each of the methods of the class. So we could just copy this, and that's it, we're done. It will execute each of these operation or methods once we created the object. So compile, let's compile it just to see, and here we go. So we have 2 frames or user frames in our program. There. So we could just comment all this out, and with that we have created 2 frames, and we don't need to repeat each of these methods, right? So it's much easier. So compile and run, and there we go. So we have 2 frames which we did not do or set the close operation, the size, or maybe we could add set resizable. So set resizable, so we don't want our users to just play with the size of our frame. So let's set it to false, and there we go. And that's it. So let's try to test it. Run, and there we go. So we have added 2 frames, and later we could add more what do you call that, components in our frame. So that's it for now. So maybe we could I could see you on the next video. So thank you for watching.